Clair Obscur Expedition 33 released in April of this year for the PlayStation 5, PC through Steam, and the Xbox app, and the Xbox Series X and S consoles through Game Pass. This video will not be my typical review where I discuss whether I think you should play the game or not. No, this review is about how I think this is a Game of the Year contender. If you're worried about spoilers, I'm going to keep this review spoiler-free and only show clips from the first act, unless I'm talking about a game mechanic from later in the game, where I will only show short clips of a fight against regular enemies. So, is Expedition 33 Game of the Year? This review is going to answer that question. Before we do, make sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel. I'm hoping to get to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. Let's begin this review, as we always do, by discussing the technicals of Expedition 33. The frame rate, at least on console, stays at a steady 60 FPS in performance mode and 30 FPS on quality mode. Personally, I played this game in both modes, and I prefer quality mode just because this game is drop-dead gorgeous and I wanted to see it at its peak. But if you want that buttery smooth camera movement, then performance mode is the answer, and you really don't lose a lot of the graphics to achieve it, although it can be noticeable at times. For glitches and bugs, I didn't have any. This game is very polished, especially for one that was just recently released. There was a patch released near the end of my playthrough, but it mostly just changed stats for some of the attacks. So overall for technicals, game run good, gameplay good, no crash. I'm going to fit this next point into the technicals portion rather than the gameplay section, but it's very easy to break the damage scaling in Expedition 33, even in the early game. It's sort of by design. You can be over-leveled to the point that it trivializes the game, and you can optimize your character's builds online so that combat is super easy. I would recommend that you don't try to optimize your builds during the main campaign. Do it after you beat the campaign, sure, but just play how you want at first. The game does have a difficulty scale, but again, you can do so much damage that you can pretty much one-shot enemies if you build a certain way. But we'll discuss that more in the gameplay section.
Expeditioners. The Sword of Lumiere. We honor your dedication. We do not take for granted that you dedicate your final year of life to keeping hope alive for all of Lumiere.
I wanted to discuss the audio in Expedition 33. I normally don't touch on it too much, since audio tends to be not as important to people as graphics, but the music and the voice acting in Expedition 33 is very good. I would rate it super high just on the audio alone. The music is orchestral and it's haunting and it's beautiful and it fits perfectly. I like to listen to soundtracks while I write, and there are several that I come back to over and over again. Witcher 3, Nier Automata, and now Clair Obscur Expedition 33. It is absolutely incredible. Every track is great, every track fits the narrative so well. For voice acting, it's gold stars all around. All the characters are voice acted by pretty famous people and they do a tremendous job. They give the characters weight and depth, and some of the performances are absolutely heartbreaking. This is not the game to play while having a podcast on, that's for sure.
Tomorrow comes. Thanks to you. Expedition 33.
Moving on to the graphics, I would have trouble finding a better looking game. And that comes in two forms, both the graphics of the Unreal Engine 5 and the art direction. The characters and environments are detailed, they look incredible. The lighting is astounding and reflecting off of pools of water, it's all good. But it's Unreal Engine 5, so looking good is kind of a given here. It's the art direction that makes Expedition 33 so unforgettable. Each stage is unique to the point where I would have no trouble recalling which levels that expedition went through. There's a city that's crumbling around its citizens but still filled with life and color. There is an entire stage that looks like it's underwater and you're walking on the bottom of the ocean. There are dark caves lit only by candles and lanterns and still manages to be bright, atmospheric, and haunting. Each environment just makes you want to stop and look around, and the storytelling is in what you see as much as what the game is showing and telling you. They tell you that this world is insane and hostile, and then you walk around through the remnants of a battlefield where tens of thousands of people are dead, and the ground is soaked in blood, and you can see it for yourself. The art direction takes a lot from paintings and art style, which ties into the narrative. I could gush on and on about Expedition 33's art and graphics all day, but you can see it for yourself in these clips I'm showing. It's one of the most memorable games I've played. And part of that is because of how the game looks. But the other part is what the game is about. Without spoilers, the story of Expedition 33 is amongst the best I've ever played. Both its lore and its narrative are compelling, and there is a mystery to solve that had me putting in hour after hour in search of answers. There are emotional highs and heartbreaking lows, and you end up loving the cast of characters. The game manages to keep the cast very small, so there's more time to focus on each one. In my opinion, the best way to judge a story is by what it makes you feel when you see the credits and set the controller down. A good story will make it hard to move on to the next game. It's going to make you stop and think about what just happened, to process it. After a lot of games, I don't feel much about them. I say, that was alright, and I think about the video I'm going to make on YouTube, and then move on to the next game on my list. But the good ones have me just sitting there, processing my thoughts and emotions. Expedition 33 felt devastating when it ended, and I wanted more. But I was also more than satisfied with what happened. All my questions were answered, while also leaving me with a slew of new ones. Most of all, I was thinking about how, if this was a AAA game from a big developer, there was no way in hell this was going to get made. The best comparison I can come up with for Expedition 33 is Final Fantasy 16. That game felt like it was made by a committee with the goal of making money. It didn't have a sense of identity, and once the credits rolled, I almost completely forgot about it. Expedition 33 is the best Final Fantasy game that's been released since Final Fantasy X, or maybe even Final Fantasy VII. It's more Final Fantasy-like than modern Final Fantasy has been. You put a crystal in this story somewhere, and you could easily have called it Final Fantasy XVII Expedition 33. And the reason for that is because its story takes risks. Final Fantasy XVI felt safe. It felt like it was ticking boxes in its story. Crystals, check. Giant monsters, check. Moody protagonist, check. Expedition 33 is so far outside the box that I doubt a big studio would have greenlit its narrative. It's strange, it's weird, it's wonderful, but it's also completely off the rails and confusing. It's everything you would want from a story with memorable characters that have emotion and a story that grips you, but it's also out there and strange as hell. In my opinion, it's perfect.
We're already dead. Look around, look.
This is not a foregone conclusion. When one falls, we continue. Get up. We need to find a safer place. There are Nevrons around.
Lucian.
This is not the place.
Gameplay-wise, Expedition 33 plays very similar to the Persona series, particularly Persona 5. It's a turn-based RPG where you fight battles using 3 characters. You can shoot your gun, hit with a basic attack, or use a skill. Rather than having magic points, you have action points. Skills require so many action points to use, and you gain action points by taking hits, dodging attacks, or striking with basic attacks. Each of the characters have stats that you can increase as you level up, and a skill tree with multiple branches, providing different playstyles. One thing that I thought was really interesting about this game was the weapons. Each of the weapons not only have different amounts of damage and elemental types, but an interesting mechanic that as you level the weapon from 1 to 20, it changes the skills. Depending on the skills you use, the weapon you select, and the party you field, you can potentially break the game, making it very easy. But that's only if you choose to do so. If you don't look up any guides, don't focus on optimizing your characters, the difficulty is very fair and you won't have too much trouble. There are times when the difficulty peaks, making some fights difficult than others, Other times the game can be very cruisy, especially if you do any of the game's many side contents. The gameplay isn't perfect, however. The dodge and parry mechanics, along with the QTE action button attacks, are going to be very divisive. Each attack you do, aside from your basic ones, will require you to press the A button or the X button on PlayStation at the right time to maximize damage. You don't have to do it. You will still do adequate damage without it, but it's there for you to use. If you do hate that, you can toggle it to auto-succeed in the accessibility options, something I chose to do after only a few hours, as I felt it didn't add much to the combat. The dodge and parry mechanics, on the other hand, can't be ignored. The difficulty options at the beginning say that dodge and parry are relatively optional on the normal difficulty, but it's like playing with one hand tied behind your back if you choose to ignore it. As enemies attack, you can dodge them right before they hit to avoid damage altogether, and a perfect dodge, one timed as close as possible, will earn you an action point. Parrying, on the other hand, is a lot harder to pull off, but if you do, you can counter for massive damage. I'll be honest with you, I didn't really like the parry and dodge mechanics here. I understand why they're there, and I'm sure a lot of people will like it and it's done reasonably well, but it just never clicked with me. It keeps you engaged in the battle so that you aren't just spamming attacks and waiting for your turn, but the timings are a little off at times and hard to get right. It seems like a deliberate choice on the developer's part, so you don't just dodge every attack in the game, but it can be frustrating. Some attacks have big tells and you can anticipate it long in advance, and while they all follow a pattern that you can learn, it takes a lot of practice and skill to dodge or parry anything in this game. Particularly during the late game, that enemies will swing, pause, then strike you, and the timings are tight, it's hard to perfect. Of all the gameplay mechanics, parry and dodge is where you're going to see the most negative reviews. It's the only aspect of the game that I can find would be controversial, along with some of the narrative story beats that I won't get into. If you ignore dodging, the game will be too hard. If you master it, the game's going to be really easy. Apart from the skills and the levels you gain, there are items in the world to collect that give your character special abilities. These are called Lumina, and you can equip 3 at a time, giving you a boost to an attribute like health and speed, along with special abilities like the ability to share heals, gain action points from killing an enemy, etc. These are one of the big game changers that can make the difference between failing against a boss and succeeding. Things like reviving once after death can give you a huge boost, not to mention the additional stats.
Are you real? Well, you sure smell real enough.
All right, let's go into the pros and cons of Clair Obscur Expedition 33. For the pros, the game looks incredible. It's at the pinnacle of graphics and art style, and it's hard to find a more interesting world than this one. It runs really well on console with no bugs, glitches, or crashes. The story is very memorable, meaningful, and incredible. It takes huge risks, things that no AAA game would do, and they pay off here. The game's only $50 to buy, and it's a day one Game Pass release, making it affordable to check out. If you're on the fence about playing it and you have Game Pass, check it out. I put in over 35 hours here and I barely touched the side content. There's so much in this game to do and see. For the cons, the dodge and parry system will frustrate some players, as well as the QTE button hitting during attacks. The difficulty can be uneven at times, especially if you do the side content or over-optimize your characters. The story might not be for everyone. There is a reason modern AAA developers try to be bland in order to reach as many people as possible. This game takes risks with its narrative, and not everyone is going to love it. And that's it for another review. In my opinion, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is absolutely worth checking out. And in fact, it's one of the best games I've played in a long time. There is a reason everyone is talking about this game right now, and I have no doubt it's going to be on a lot of people's Game of the Year lists, including mine. I'm the Casual Console Gamer, and I'll see you all in the next review.